Hello, everyone. This is John Butero back with another video. I know it's been a while, but I've been very busy. As you know, I'm a truck driver and I've got limited time to do things like videos. And I really didn't plan on doing this one, but I feel like I have to at this point. As you know, I've been doing a lot of videos about Christian deconstruction that I've seen on YouTube. And I have really been kind of perplexed by the whole thing because as I've said before, atheists and these deconstruction people offer nothing but unbelief. They don't have anything to offer you, and except that you're going to one day die and wind up in the grave and you're just an animal. You've got nothing beyond this life. I mean, they've got nothing. And then on top of all of that, they can't really give you any kind of a reasonable way we got here without God. And as I've also pointed out, in reality, the way I look at it, atheism is a type of religion, and atheists do have a God. They believe the universe created itself and created us. Therefore, the God of the atheist would therefore be the universe. So, as far as I'm concerned, when they go around, just attacking Christianity, it's time that we put them on the defensive and make them explain how we got here without a God and how their version of things, the Big Bang, which they still can't fully explain, along with evolution, that we evolved from sea creatures to land creatures to where we are today, how that makes more sense than any of the other religions that there are. Yeah, to me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They are another religion. They're just in denial when they say that they're not. They want to kind of be given a pass about that, and they want to be looked at like they're just they don't need to be able to explain anything. They just need to tell you that Christianity doesn't exist, and they want you to have to be forced to explain Christianity. Well, it's time they start giving some coherent answers as to how we got here without a God. Because, and really, again, like I said, their version is that everything created itself, therefore, the creation itself is the God of the atheists. Well, I came across another atheist when I was watching YouTube videos, and I feel like I need to give some responses to some things on here. This particular atheist's name is Ivy Windsong Collins, and I'm sure if you have been watching any of the deconstruct videos, you have come across her. Now, one thing that I have noticed about her videos is she exhibits a true hatred for Yahweh. She absolutely is dogging him all the time. She's criticizing him, making fun of him, saying all kinds of hateful things. And then if you say that she is hating Yahweh, she'll deny its hatred. She'll just say that no, it's not hatred for Yahweh. She doesn't even believe in him, that it's just her saying how he really is. No, it's hatred for Yahweh. That doesn't mean that she believes in Yahweh or doesn't believe in it. I'm not going to make a judgment on that. Who am I to say? But it does mean that she hates either a God she really secretly believes in or that she does not believe in, but she just hates the idea of this God. But she has a complete hatred for Yahweh. And if anybody doubts me, watch her videos and look at some of the rants she goes off on about Yahweh. So she can say whatever she wants, but as far as I'm concerned, she hates the God that the Christians serve. Now, recently, she made a video that I considered to be completely outrageous. One of the things I've noticed about her videos, she will say things that are true that are in the Bible, but she will mix that stuff with a bunch of lies too. She'll exaggerate things and she'll just make things up. Now, um, in this most recent video, the one that I'm critical of, she was talking about how that God had this thing in the law, which was a test for an unfaithful wife. So if a man got jealous of his wife and he thought she'd cheated on him, he could take her to the priest and they would give her this concoction to drink. And if she was innocent, she had not committed adultery, no harm would come to her. And at a later time, she would conceive and have a child. Well, she took that and she twisted it all in knots and made out like in many of these cases, the women were pregnant that came there. and that the curse of the bitter water, if it turned out that they had cheated, it would cause a miscarriage. And then she tried to turn that into a thing over abortion. And then she was claiming that Yahweh was okay with abortion, and that if Yahweh was okay with abortion, therefore, why are the Christians against it and all that? And why would Christians, if they're against abortion, why would they be okay with bringing, their wife before them and having them drink this concoction with the possibility that it might kill the baby? And then, of course, she was also scoffing at the idea of the curse of the bitter water, and was trying to come at it from a natural standpoint, that this water would be unsafe to drink and all of that. But the big thing was the abortion thing. This has absolutely nothing to do with abortion or miscarriages. Anybody can go back and read it, and they can clearly see that. Now, if you happen to have the NIV translation, which is a translation I never use, it actually puts the word miscarriage in there. It's the only translation that I am aware of that does that. Now, I've gone back and I have researched this myself, and I've looked up what it showed in the original Hebrew manuscripts that were translated to English, and there is not a single word in the Hebrew that could rightfully be translated as miscarriage, which means that that word doesn't even belong in the NIV. Now, something that I've pointed out, now what was the motivation for putting it in there? There's all kind of possibilities, and I can only really speculate at it. It could be because they had an agenda to put that thought in people's minds that miscarriages were what the intent was. It also could have been that they were just simply trying to be different from other translations so they could get a copyright, because you can't just keep writing all these new translations and there be just copies of what other ones do and get a copyright. You have to show something original. It's one of the reasons, there are other ones, but it's one of the reasons why I am a King James only person. I use nothing but either the authorized King James Version Bible or 1611 edition King James Bible. That's all I ever use. And I've also told people, if you're going to use a new translation, even though it's not something I would use, I'd go with New King James Bible. But that's it. Because people like to translation shop, and they'll look for one that'll say what best works out for them and whatever they're saying. I don't like to get into that kind of stuff. Matter of fact, you ever seen a sermon where somebody starts out reading from one translation, and then every time they want to go to a point, they will bring out the translation that they say says it best for what they're trying to do? I don't believe in doing that. So I stick with the King James Bible. But that word, there's not a word in the Hebrew that would rightfully be translated as a miscarriage or abortion. So that needs to be completely thrown out. Her whole argument was bogus on all of that. That was one of the things that she was arguing about. Another thing that she did, she was criticizing the fact that in the Old Testament, God allowed men to be polygamists, and so, with men having more than one wife. She tried to come up with this point, making out like that they were into orgies and all kind of stuff, and then she was attacking God as being a voyeur who liked to watch pornography because he'd watch them in these three ways. Again, this woman has nothing but contempt, disrespect, and hatred for Yahweh. I mean, it's obvious. I've even said within my own self that she comes across to me like a woman who's talking about an ex or something or other that she's still got a lot of bad feelings for. That's the way she comes out. But she's got a lot of hatred for Yahweh, and it comes out in all of her videos. She did come back after I kind of came against all the stuff she was saying. She did come out and admit that there is nothing in the scripture. There's no way she can prove anybody was involved in orgies. Her point was that there's nothing in the scriptures that absolutely would forbid a man who had more than one wife from engaging in sexual relations with two of them at the same time. That was her point. She was trying to make it into something like that. But there actually is, at least in the way that most people are engaged in such things, because the Old Testament forbids lesbian sex acts. So unless this was done in a way where nothing was going on between the two women, and then there was something that would prevent it. So the chances are that this was not going on like what she was saying. And in most polygamous situations, it doesn't go on. But regardless, it's just a typical type thing she does. She takes some truth that she was for shock value. In this case, it was, abortion, and then it was the situation over the man having more than one wife, and then she turns it into something it's ridiculous. And again, there's nothing in the Bible whatsoever in any of this stuff that was dealing with abortion. And I hold to the position that God is against abortion because God says that murder is wrong. And if you go into your Bible and you look, when it comes down to unborn children, they are never referred to as anything but a child or a babe. And God has stated that he even knew them before he formed them in the womb. You can see that in Jeremiah chapter 1. And then in other places, you can see where God had names for these unborn babies. He could tell you who they were. He could tell you about what they were going to be like. God just simply looks at them as children. So God would not support abortion. Doesn't matter how they spin it. It's clear from the scriptures that abortion would be wrong. God does not support it. Now, some other things, though, that she was saying that in her video, in attacking God, she was saying that God kills children. That was one of the things that she was making points on. Now, one of them, I just said it was completely bogus, the situation of the man and his wife and the test to see whether or not she was faithful or not. That was totally bogus. So, where do we go from there? Well, she would say that God killed children in the sense of, say, the Canaanites. Now, and then she also had another one she was arguing about God killing David's child. So, first of all, I want to address the Canaanite situation, where that uh, God sent his armies into the land of Canaan, and he had them destroy entire cities. And when he did that, he told them to destroy everyone and everything that was in these cities, leave nobody alive. That would include men, women, and children. All that's true. But here's the thing about it. God has never told anybody except Abraham, and I'll get to that in just a minute, to ever just go and kill a family member. He's never told anybody to do that in any place. And in the case of Abraham, he wasn't really wanting Abraham to kill his son. But we'll get to that in a minute. In the situation of the Canaanites, these people had been so wicked that they were already doing things like killing their children, sacrificing them to idol gods. And the reason why God wanted them all wiped out was because if he did not do that, they would become a snare for the children of Israel when they went in to possess the land. God gave them all kind of time to repent. Canaanites never did. And God said, enough's enough. Their cup of iniquity's full. And therefore, he had them destroyed. And yes, it did include women and children, because the women and children were corrupted too. That's the reason for it. Now, in the case of killing your own child or a family member, or God telling somebody to do that, um, God only told Abraham to do that as a test to see whether he would. And as soon as Abraham showed that he was going to do it because God told him to, God stopped it. So God never intended for anybody to ever kill any of their family members. That's never happened. Now, in the case of God killing David's child, the story behind that is David committed adultery with Bathsheba. She ended up conceiving. This led to David, coming up with a scheme to kill her husband and then take Bathsheba as his wife to cover up the entire incident, which God did not approve of, and God punishes David severely for the rest of his life for what he did. But one of the things that God does is he said, because of all of this, the child shall not live, and the child gets sick and the child dies. God had a right to do that. God is God. We do not hold God to the same standards that we do people. I don't look at God and say he's a murderer because he, chooses at a certain time to take anybody. And here's another little thing about that. When God took that child went straight to heaven. And David even acknowledged that when his life ended, he would see the child again in heaven. So God did not allow the child to live down here, but just a very short period of time, and then he took him on up to heaven. David would eventually, even in his own knowledge, knew that one day that he would see his child again, because he knew his child was still alive and well in heaven, but God was not going to allow him to remain on this earth. God is not a murderer because he takes somebody's life. God is the giver of life. God is the only one who has a right to take a life. So we do not hold God to the same standards. And I thought that was just an obvious point. But when somebody is trying to attack God, they, they'll just say anything. They make it out like he's just another, like a person. And so God's held to the same standards. No, he's not. And here's another thing. If we're really looking at it like God is a murderer for taking a child, like in David's case, David's child of adultery, then couldn't you also say that he's actually killed everybody that's ever lived simply because he imposed death on us after the fall? And, at one time, like shortly after the fall, people were still living a very long lifetime. But at a certain point, God actually lowered the lifespan to 120 years. Could you say that then, therefore, God has murdered everybody that's ever died? I mean, how far do you want to take this? God is the giver of life. God is the only one that can take life. And God is not to be held to the same standards as people. God can do anything that God wants to. He is all powerful and he's all sovereign. And so all these arguments about the terrible things supposedly that God did, they're all bogus. Now, the reason why I felt the need to do a video here is because there were comments that were made in reference to a response video that Ivy Windsong Collins made to me. She actually made an entire video responding to my problems with her video about the test of the unfaithful wife and the man in polygamy, supposedly in orgies. She responded to me and made an entire video responding to that. I responded to what she said in her video, and then people started writing me with questions. And I tried to respond to the ones that were to me. I wasn't trying to respond to everybody that said anything, but I was trying to respond to the ones specifically to me. And she started removing all of the comments when I was responding to them. And the only possible explanation for that is that I was too effective. I was actually damaging what she was trying to do in her videos, and so she didn't like it. And I have responses for anything that anybody ever threw at me. They were not really that difficult to respond to. So she was taking out all of the responses, and I was being asked some of the most asinine questions by some of these people. Like one of them, uh, well, he asked me, and it didn't have anything to do with this video or any of the stuff before. He just wanted to know, if God told me to kill my own child, would I do it? The answer I gave was, if God told me to, I wouldn't have any choice. However, God wouldn't tell me to do that because it would go against his word. God is not going to tell anybody to kill anybody else in their family. He's not going to do that, or friends or whatever. He's not going to do that. And I know he wouldn't do that. But the real point is that if God literally told you, I'm talking about if Jehovah God or Jesus Christ or the Holy Spirit actually told us to do anything, of course, we've got to obey God. But then there are things that we know God would not tell us to do because his word is the primary way he speaks to us, and he will never go against his word. Do I ever hear the voice of God? God has spoken to me before. He's spoken to me on just a couple of occasions with an audible voice. One time telling me to preach the word, and then in another time it was actually he was correcting me about something. And in the cases of where I heard God's voice, I could confirm that what he said was biblical. in a case of killing somebody, I would know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's not biblical. I wouldn't do it. But what was coming back, they were all then turning it into a circus, and they were trying to make out like, oh, this person is so dangerous because he would do that and whatever if God told him to. But the fact of the matter is, I know God wouldn't tell me to do that. And I actually gave a response to somebody a little bit to make it real plain where I stand on this. And she took the whole comment out. And I tried to comment a couple of more times in different ways, and she was just taking everything out. She just isn't going to have it anymore. I can't even respond to my critics that were asking me direct questions. So what I did though, before she had a chance to remove it, I took a screenshot of this response, the one that she took out, and I want to read it to you right now so you know what it was that I responded to these people about it. I said, it needs to be known that if I hear voices telling me to kill, I know that will not be God, so I wouldn't do it. The people who kill because voices tell them to are schizophrenic, possessed, or trying to get off on an insanity plea. I'm a defender of human life. Uh, Including unborn babies. Many people defend abortion with no restrictions, including most Democratic politicians. That means babies are murdered in the 9th month of pregnancy in the name of choice. That is evil. That was my response. I made it very clear that not only would I not kill somebody if I heard a voice in my head telling me to, but I also pointed out their hypocrisy, because most of these people that are calling God evil for killing children, supposedly, and then they were attacking me as though I was literally saying I would kill my child. I made it very clear. Basically, the point is, if God tells you to do something, you do it. It's common sense for a Christian. But at the same time, I wouldn't kill somebody if I heard a voice in my head telling me to do it. That's the whole point. But anyway, uh, what I'm saying is they're hypocritical. They are hypocrites because a lot of them are pro-choice. They defend Democrats. And these people are, in many cases, defending abortion all the way up to the time where the child would be viable to live outside the womb. And so, and most all Democrats are going to go along with that simply because they have to appease the radical feminists that vote for them. So my point is, if you really believe that the killing of children is so bad by God in the cases like what I was describing, then you should be coming against all of these evil Democrats who support the genocide against unborn babies in this country. The fact of the matter is, as a Christian, I am a defender of life. I have defended unborn children since even before I was a Christian. I was a believer in God all the time, but I've always defended unborn children. I defend animals against animal abuse, and I am somebody who even takes care of, feeds animals that are strays in my neighborhood. I'm that guy that does that has all the strays, cats, hanging around their house. So I value life. I am somebody who stood up for Terry Schiavo when her husband was going to court to try to get rid of the feeding tube. And many of these people attack defending Terry Schiavo. Terry Schiavo was clearly able to respond to questions. There was all the reason in the world to believe that she knew what was going on that whole time that was going on. I defended her. I defended her even with letters. I was writing to members of the Senate and the House, and I was writing to the Governor Jeb Bush, on behalf of Terry Schiavo. I value human life, but I value human life because I'm a Christian. Now, the thing that I really find funny about all this is, why in the world are the atheists claiming that they're so outraged by how evil God is from taking life that he gave? Why are they doing that when they claim they're nothing more than animals and that this is it? If they really believe that, why do they even care? Where's the value in human life in the first place? And they show they don't really value life too much when they support abortion and they support candidates that support abortion with no restrictions. How in the world can they say that, oh, God is such an evil one for doing this kind of stuff? How can they say that? They're just flat out hypocrites. So, in response again to Ivy Windsong Collins, I wouldn't even be doing this video today if she would have at least let me respond to the comments that were written to me. But I felt like I have to say something about what she's doing since she chose to do that. Now, I am considering, I wasn't going to do this before, but I'm actually feeling like now, as a result of this and just all the stuff I've been dealing with from atheists. I even had one atheist who came in there and he said that he wanted to have a conversation with me, and I actually agreed to do it. And I never heard back from him again. I was willing to have a conversation with him. I would have been okay to have debated him on video. I would have been fine with that. Heck, I'd debate Ivy Windsong Collins on video if she wanted to do it. I mean, it'd be okay with me. I just want to make sure, if I did do such a video, I'd want to make sure that it was done by an impartial person, the debate was, and that it was actually going to get shown in its entirety, no matter how it came out. But I'd be willing to do it. I have no fear of debating any of these atheists. I'll defend God. I totally believe in God. And what I'm thinking about doing now, and I didn't plan to before, but what I'm thinking about doing now is just at least focusing for the near future on coming against atheist arguments. Because so far I haven't seen any of them that are not really easy to tear down. They're really not near the super intelligent as they think they are. And, I don't really find that it's that hard to answer any of their questions. Even the ones where they think they've really got me, they're really not that hard to answer. So I'm thinking about spending time just focusing on coming against the arguments the atheists are making and continuing to come against deconstruction videos. I may not do that forever, but I'm thinking about doing that maybe for the near future. Maybe down the road, once I've covered every possible argument and angle that they've got, maybe I'll talk about other things of interest to me. Maybe I'll get into politics. Maybe I'll get into stuff about truck driving. I've been a truck driver for 29 years. Maybe I'd have some stories that be of interest to fellow truckers. I don't know. But I might get into some other stuff. I might get into more Bible teaching. But for now, it looks like the direction that I'm going to end up going is basically coming against atheist arguments. So I wasn't really, I didn't have a huge interest really in trying to build a YouTube channel in the past. I was at YouTube mostly to watch videos, but I sort of got drawn into this. The algorithm was pulling me over to the atheist videos and the deconstruct videos and all that stuff. And I've sort of been drawn into it. And I feel like that's of the Lord. I don't think things happen by accident. I think the Lord led me this way and opened up this door, and this is the way he wants me to go for now. So I'm going to do something that I don't usually do. If you have an interest in seeing somebody on here actually defending the faith against the atheists, or you want to see what I'm doing in regard to the atheists, or you want to see, maybe you think I've got silly responses to the atheists and you think you are capable of tearing down my arguments, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to it. And I'm going to tell you what, if you want to make comments, make all the comments you want on both sides. I don't fear them. As a matter of fact, if you make comments against what I'm doing, then I'll have more stuff to discuss. So you're doing me a favor in a sense. Every commenter is welcome. If you're an atheist and you want to comment, comment. The only thing that will get you out of my comments is if you come in here cursing or doing something like that. I'm not going to tolerate that. But if you come in here with reasonable comments, discussions, things you want to ask questions about, ask the hardest questions you can come up with. I will be happy to leave them in there. I'm perfectly content with that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut off on this. I don't like to go over half an hour on it, but that's really all I got for this video, but hopefully, Lord willing, I'll be bringing you some more videos in the near future.